If you're looking for your next customer, think about Google Maps. Seriously, it's not just for getting directions, it's one of the biggest, richest sources of business data on the entire planet. But getting your hands on that data for lead generation or market research, well, that involves a big strategic choice. So how do you actually tap into it? Okay, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the sheer size of the opportunity. Then we'll compare the 3 ways to get the data, weighing the cost, the complexity, and the return. We'll even cover a pro-level trick for getting all the data, and wrap up with the risks you absolutely need to know about. So first off, let's just get a sense of scale here. We're not talking about some static, out-of-date directory. This is a living, breathing, global database that's being updated constantly by millions of people. 200 million. That's how many businesses are indexed on Google Maps. If you're in sales or marketing, just let that number sink in. It is an absolutely massive, unparalleled resource for understanding what's happening on the ground in any market, anywhere in the world. And look at the kind of data we're talking about. It's the whole shebang. You get the basics, sure, name, address, phone number, but you also get their website for outreach, their operating hours, and, this is huge, customer reviews and ratings. That's pure gold for competitive analysis. Every single data point here is a piece of valuable business intelligence. So, you're sold. You want the data. How do you get it? Well, the first door to knock on is the official one that Google provides, but you're going to find it has a pretty hefty price tag. This is called the Google Places API. Think of it as the front door. It's clean, it's super reliable, and it gives you perfectly structured, high-quality data straight from the source. No question, it's the official way to do things. But that official access is going to cost you. To get a full profile on a business, all the good stuff like their phone number and their location, you often have to make multiple requests to their system. And when all is said and done, that brings the cost to about $34 for every 1,000 businesses you want information on. Now, let's see how that adds up. Imagine you're running a pretty standard lead gen campaign. You need a list of, say, 50,000 potential businesses. Using the official API, you're already looking at a bill for $1,700, and that's before you've even done anything with the data. For a lot of teams, that's just a non-starter. That high price naturally leads every business leader to the same question. Hey, this data is publicly visible on the map. Why don't we just build our own tool to grab it? And, it's a tempting thought. It seems like the free option, right? But the reality is, building, and more importantly, maintaining, a scraper that can handle a platform as complex as Google Maps is a monumental technical challenge. And this right here, this is the hidden cost of do-it-yourself. It's not paid in dollars, it's paid in your engineer's time and sanity. Google is incredibly sophisticated. They have anti-bot systems, they threw up CAPTCHAs constantly, and the data isn't just sitting in simple code. You need a massive proxy setup and a team that's ready to jump in and fix the scraper every single time Google pushes an update, which is often. Okay, so this brings us to option number 3. This is the one that's really become the go-to for most businesses because it strikes a perfect balance between the crazy costs of the API and the massive headache of trying to do it yourself. This table just lays it all out perfectly. With a third-party scraping service, they handle all of that technical nightmare for you. And look at the cost. You go from around $34 per 1,000 leads with the API down to maybe $3. You get the data, you don't pay the insane API price, and you don't have the maintenance headaches of DIY. From an ROI perspective, it's a no-brainer. All right, quick pro tip for you. No matter which of these routes you take, you're going to smack into a pretty big wall when you try to get a complete list of businesses for, say, an entire city. Here's the problem. If you search for plumbers in Chicago, Google won't show you every plumber. It puts a hard cap on the results, usually around 120. So if you're trying to do any kind of serious market research, a simple search just isn't going to cut it. So the solution is to get surgical. Instead of one big, broad search, you perform hundreds of tiny, specific ones. You basically lay a digital grid over your target city, and then you run a separate search from each and every coordinate on that grid. You gather up all those small lists, merge them together, remove the duplicates, and boom, you have a complete dataset that bypasses Google's limit. Okay, last but definitely not least, before you jump into any data scraping project, you have to understand the compliance side of things. This part is absolutely critical. The main takeaway here is do your homework. Google's terms of service are very clear that they don't allow scraping.
If you're touching any data related to Europe, you've got GDPR to think about, which has really strict rules. Even just getting around a CAPTCHA could have legal issues. You really need to sit down and assess your company's tolerance for risk.
So at the end of the day, it really just comes down to a business decision. You have the official API, it's safe, but it's expensive. You have the DIY route, it seems free, but it's a huge technical resource drain. And then you have scraping services, which offer that high ROI middle ground. The right strategy for you is going to depend entirely on your budget, your team skills, and your company's overall strategy.